Hello, welcome to the Jon and Lebo show. I'm in Andover, you're in Ithaca, and we got another week. A lot of stuff happened in this past week that we'll get to later, but first off, John, how you doing? How's the week? How was the week that was? How was your previous weekend? How have you been since we last spoke?
It's good. I had some people from your year come visit me for the Cortica Jug, the biggest little game in the nation. They came by. I think I won for the first time in 7 years. So
Was it
actually,
7 years or was it 9? I thought it was
it
09.
was 8. Last time they won was 09, so I know you're not very good at math, but that would have been 8 years since they've won. So the first time in 8 years.
You sure about that? Yeah, no, you're right. Yeah, it's cool. It's cool that they
Thanks.
won. Am I a dick that I don't care about Ithaca College winning the Cortica Jug like at all? Like I literally do not care whatsoever if they win.
I mean, you do hate fun.
Fun. You see, I hate this reputation I have. I think it's unfair. I think it's baseless. I just don't care if they win. I'm just not a huge. I cover Division III athletics. It doesn't mean I like it. Doesn't mean I'm going to root for it. Doesn't mean that I'm going to have an blind affiliation with the team full of people that I really don't care all that much about. Nothing against them personally. I just don't care. I just don't care at all. I'm proud to go to Ithaca College, but I'm just like, I don't give a shit. I have the only tie I have is I went there. But if you go to like a Division III school where it's Division III athletics and you're like full boat, like really into it, like I love this team, like you have some problems. Like realistically, I'm happy they won. It's good the thing that they won.
Yeah, you don't hate fun. You don't hate fun. You just bash school pride completely.
It's not about school pride. It's
if you love your team, if you love your D3 team, you have a problem. That's my problem. If you love your D3 team, you have an issue.
Did you hear the men's volleyball team? They made it to the Sweet 16. I can't believe it. Who gives a shit? Who cares? It's volleyball. It's like I don't care. I don't care about the soccer team. I don't care about the lacrosse. The lacrosse team was the number 2 team in Division III. That's great. They'd be the last place team in Division I. I really don't give a shit. I really don't give two. I just don't. I covered it. I think that's what you have to be though. If you're in media, aren't you supposed to be objective? Like I know this is probably bad for me to say because I held a position where I covered like every single one of these teams, but I wasn't. I was removed from the fandom of it, which I think's good. I hate when people go to schools and like right off the bat, they're just like, oh, I love this team. I love this team. They've been my favorite team for life. No, they haven't. They've been a team that you've rooted for a week and a half.
No one says that they've been their favorite team for life. I've never heard a single person.
But people act like they're lifelong.
Here and have some spirit. I've never seen someone be an excessive fan. I've never seen someone be an excessive fan. I'm sorry.
There are a boatload of. I'm not going to name names, but there's a ton of people who act like Ithaca College football is their life, and it's like you really need to like just figure out your priorities, man. That's my beginning of the show rant. They won. Congratulations. It's irrelevant. Who gives a shit? They didn't make it to the playoffs, but it's good. It's a good thing they won. It's good. I don't like Cortland. I don't like Cortland more than I do like Ithaca College. I'll say that much. But there's not really that. See, I'm indifferent about both of them when it really comes down to it. All right, let's get into it. I digress. So Tyrod Taylor, starting quarterback for the Bills, or was the starting quarterback for the Bills. They're now 5-4. They've been on a little bit of a skid. He got benched. What were your initial thoughts when you heard about Tyrod Taylor being benched?
I was shocked, man. He's had a good season. He's had a really good season, but I ultimately like the move. I'm one of the very few that like the move. I'll tell you about it later, but I was a little shocked, man, because like the last few weeks, like Tyrod Taylor himself, he didn't give up 34 points to the Jets. He didn't give up 47 points to the Saints. He was able to get away from the bad offensive line of the Bills that wasn't able to protect him. He was able to extend some plays out of it. But I'll tell you why I like this move, and I like the move from McDermott. I feel like the Bills, there's always this narrative of starting out strong, like the first 7 weeks of the season, 7, 8 weeks, starting out strong. Maybe people being like, is this the year? And then it just ends up not being the year. I think Sean McDermott is coming in here trying to build a new culture and trying to change that. He started out this season, they were 5-2. They haven't been 5-2 since 2011. And this is what he's trying to avoid. Look at them. 2011, they were 5-2, finished the season 1-9. 2014, they were 5-3. They finished the season below 500. 2015, 5-4. Nope. 2016, 4-2. Nope. This year they were 5-2, and this has been like where they've never been better than 5-2 like in my lifetime, and then like gotten better from it. And now they've lost 2 games in awful fashion. The Jets game was brutal. The Saints game. I know I like Saints. I like Marshawn Lattimore. I like Marcus Lattimore. Excuse me. I like the Saints' new defense. They're good, but 47-10 at home. That's not a playoff team. So maybe it's not Tyrod's problem. But the McDermott's trying to avoid that same narrative that happens every year where the Bills just lose 8 of their last 10 or 7 of their last 9. He's trying to avoid it. Nathan Peterman came into the game last week when it was a blowout. He showed him some stuff. He showed McDermott some stuff in practice this week. And McDermott's saying, hey, we need to change a culture for this team. We're 5-4. I'm not going to let this season slip away. And if I think we can do better with Peterman and I want to change this culture, go ahead. He's trying to avoid this collapse at the end of the year. I agree with it. Tyrod's nothing special. He's inconsistent. Yeah, I guess like the games, like he's average. He's an average NFL quarterback. And then like he's not going to win you games. And they think they have a better option with Peterman. He's trying to change the culture. I'm all for it.
Yeah, I think that people have like this misconception of Tyrod Taylor that he's an elite quarterback. He's not an elite quarterback. He's a middle of the pack quarterback. He's middle tier. He's not going to win you a Super Bowl. Maybe if you have a team around him that's good enough, he can take you to the playoffs. But that's kind of his ceiling. There's not that much of a loss by benching him and going with a guy that's had to have impressed you in practice. You don't just go to your 5th round pick for no reason. Most of the time when rookies play well in practice and preseason, the only reason you don't go to them is because it's a risk. You have an established starting quarterback, and you're going to ride the hot hand, the guy who's proven himself in game. 10 weeks into the season, 11 weeks into the season, and the Bills are doing the same thing they do every year. Hot start, fade out. Why would you stay with the guy who's been the one constant during this stretch? And not take this risk, because it's not even that big of a risk, because the season's going to end with the Bills going 500 or below 500,
below, yeah, right,
missing the playoffs, and having a disappointing year given the start that they had. So this really is a low risk, high reward move. I don't think Peterman's going to do that bad, and I don't think they would go to him unless that he impressed them during practice. Tyrod Taylor is not an elite quarterback. He is not irreplaceable. He is average. He's an average NFL quarterback. End of story.
Yeah, and I think that he is an average quarterback, maybe even like above average, and I think that he shows that he can be above average, but he's inconsistent, and maybe he's not the complete reason why they're losing these games. He's probably not, and he's helped them stay in some of these games, but they just want that change of culture. That's what it is. They want something else to come in here. They've got a couple tough games coming up, Alex, and they think they know that with Tyrod, they've already lost a couple of bad games. And this week they're at LA, and then they're playing the Chiefs and the Pats, 2 of the better teams in the AFC. They already know that with Tyrod, what they're going to get. They know the ceiling of this Peterman kid. Why not bring him in? Why not throw him in the game and see what he can do? You already think your season's slipping away anyway, and you think this guy has a high ceiling. Throw him into the game. Change that culture. This will show a lot about McDermott if it works. And if it doesn't, then it'll just be another classic Bills season. But I like it.
Another thing is, you have a guy who is I'm not really too familiar with Peterman. I don't know really what his play style is. He's more of a pro style quarterback, though. He's not really a dual threat, is he? Because I don't really know much about it. I haven't seen him play all that much. I know he came in last week, but you bring in a different quarterback with a different skill set, and there's some benefit to that, because if teams are preparing for a guy in Tyrod Taylor that they're going to face his defense, you bring in a guy who's a completely different style than him, who is going to completely screw up the defensive game plan or render it ineffective. So I look at that, and I think it's a good move just because they can benefit just from the different style of play between Taylor and Peterman. And when you're going up against teams like the Chiefs and the Pats, they're good at game planning against quarterbacks they've gone up against before. I don't think they do very well against quarterbacks who are pretty good, above average, who, are not what they're familiar with, because they're just not prepared.
Right.
They're teams that rely on being prepared. And when you change it up on them, that is a huge disadvantage for your opponent. So I think this move makes a lot of sense. I don't think it's worth freaking out over. I don't think Tyrod Taylor is anything special.
And I think a big part of those collapses mid-season from the Bills that we've seen is they come out the season strong, because let's face it, like it's a lot mental at this point because they've had some good teams. Like their defenses have been good and they've had some good offenses, but they just haven't been able to make those adjustments. And I think this is an adjustment. Mid-season, it's an adjustment. It's a change. We don't know if it'll work, but they're trying to adjust. And with a guy like Peterman, if he's got a high ceiling, NFL teams don't really know what to expect from. What are they going to watch? Just tape from Pitt? They don't know what he's going to bring. So I think that's also an advantage. So obviously this does have a big percentage chance to backfire. But ultimately, I think I like it. I like the change. I think it's exciting. The Bills season's always exciting. You know, is this going to be the year they do it? Is it not? Oh, they're starting off an exciting start. Oh, they've lost their last couple. There's always a story with them, and this is just another one. I like it.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think there's anything to lose. Let's move on. My show is over for the season. Pigskin Press Pass on WCAP. But next Thursday, it's in the works. I don't know if it's official, but I'll probably be calling a game, doing a little play-by-play, John, for some high school football. Should be a good one out there in Haverhill. Right, it's right on the border or right next to the border of New Hampshire. So it should be fun going up north to call that one. That's Thursday, Thanksgiving morning. This old turkey bowl, as they call it. So tune into that. But right now,
let's game on Thanksgiving. Wow, there you go.
Well, that's a high school thing. They do it everywhere. It should be fun.
But still.
Yeah. All right. NBA Celtics 13-game winning streak. We didn't know if they complete it. We had Kyrie Irving go down. The Celtics had Kyrie Irving go down a few games ago. He played 2 minutes after getting elbowed in the face by Aaron Baines, and he was out for a game or two. He's back. You know, he's masked. It's great. The Celtics are still playing really well. And tonight, they're recording this Thursday afternoon. They're playing the Golden State Warriors.
Going to be a hell of a game. I can't wait to watch that.
It should be amazing. And I think Steph Curry is playing. He had an injury, but I think he's playing. This is at TD Garden. This is a game that will really show us where the Celtics really are at, because they haven't really played a lot of top-tier talent. They played the Cavaliers game one, almost won that game after Gordon Hayward went down. They played the Thunder, beat the Thunder, which was a great performance. They beat the Spurs, and they beat the Raptors. But outside of those teams, there's not a lot of really good competition that they've gone up against, and this is the best of the best. This will show us where they're at legitimately. I'm pumped for this game. I'm looking forward to it. I want to see if this is just a really good run by the team or if they're a legitimate contender. Because if they win tonight, it's 14 in a row. And you have to seriously start questioning whether or not the Cavaliers are head and shoulders the favorite in the Eastern Conference. I know they have LeBron James. I know that come playoff time, he turns it up a notch. But this Celtics team is looking unreal right now. And I don't know if LeBron James by himself, and I know IT needs to come back still, I don't know if that team can topple the Celtics. And I know we're only December, but I don't know if they can topple the Celtics down the line. And I think this year you could realistically see this Boston team in the NBA Finals, because the way they're playing right now, the way they're being coached right now, the way their defense is playing is nothing short of spectacular.
Right. And I'll tell you this. I've had the pleasure of watching like 4 or 5 Celtics games this year in their entirety, and they are fun to watch. There's a lot of big things I've taken away. Tatum's been incredible. Brown has been one of my favorite players, if not my favorite player on their team to watch. That's young. But I got to tell you, man, with Marcus Smart, Terry Rozier, I really think, based on what I've seen from Rozier, this guy's got a ceiling. He's a gritty, great backup point guard. He can shoot a little bit. I know his three-point percentage is down a little. It'll go up. You know, his shot looks a little fluid. He's scrappy. He can score. His defense is great. I think that come this year, restricted free agency, a team's going to offer Marcus Smart a ton of money, and he's going to sign somewhere else, and they're going to use Rozier as their guy, as their backup guy.
Absolutely.
And I really appreciate. I've loved watching him play. But
John, not to interrupt, just real quick. Have you ever seen go on YouTube and search Terry Rozier, Michael Jordan? They had the same exact shooting motion and like the same fadeaways. The only difference is Rozier's like 4 inches shorter. And he's not Michael Jordan, but it's hilarious how similar their play styles are. I'm not saying they're the same, but that's just a little funny tidbit. Look it up after the show. Go on.
So you're not saying they're the same, but Terry Rozier is better than Michael Jordan.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Okay, good. Also, though, with your point with the Cavs, I'll show you why I'm not worried. Because I watched their game last night against the Hornets, and like obviously they won. It's the Hornets, but that game against the Knicks, which was the most exciting game I've seen this season, I think. This is why like I'm not worried. They go into the regular season autopilot mode. That's no hot take. Everyone says that. And then, but this year it's really like the worst that it's been. They were 6-7 going into New York. LeBron's talking smack on Twitter about Frank Ntilikina saying the Knicks should have taken Dennis Smith Jr. He said it was a shot at Phil Jackson. I don't know what it was. So then all New York media was really just completely trolling him. LeBron deserved it, though. And then during the game, they're down by 20. And then, like, Ntilikina, like, whatever, there's a little scruffle between those two, cancer. So now LeBron knows everyone's watching. And then all of a sudden, a 43-point fourth quarter, and then with the game tied with 10 seconds left, LeBron hits a shot over one of the best young players in the league to go up 3. That just shows the way that they came back like that he could turn it on whenever he wants. So I'm not that concerned, but it should be a great matchup between the Celtics and Cavs. But yeah, I do
to do that against the Knicks is one thing. It's not like he's going to do that against the Celtics, and I think that's just
playing incredible right now. They're playing great basketball.
They're playing well, but they're still the Knicks, and they still don't have the same level of talent or the same level of coaching. And LeBron James, he's going to be clutch. I just don't know. He can't do it against a team like the Celtics by himself. I think that it's gotten to that point. I also think you have to take into consideration this season for him is a matter of weighing his options for free agency, where he's going to go next season. Attention is going to be 100% towards winning a final this season. I think it's going to be his attention will be towards where am I going to be the next 2-3 seasons in my career. Because it's not working right now, and he's doing the same thing that he always does, and he's bitching about his teammates. He's saying passive aggressive bullshit like I haven't had a guy who can score in a while. It's like yeah. I mean, you pushed him out of town. Now you have Isaiah Thomas who's coming in, but he'll be a free agent at the end of the year because you're not leaving or you're not staying. So I just really hate LeBron James. This has been established. I think he's an unbelievable competitor. I think that he's a counterproductive leader at times. And I don't know how this team's going to look at the end of the season when you have Isaiah Thomas coming back from injury. You don't know how he's going to look. And you have Derrick Rose, who's obviously not Derrick Rose anymore. And Kevin Love, who's a softie. So this entire Cavaliers team, they're not very good outside of LeBron James. And it's not like they have another superstar on that team. Because guess what? Isaiah Thomas is not a superstar in my eyes. He's just not a two-way player. He can't get it done. I don't think he's a superstar.
Not a superstar. He averaged 30 points a game last year. He's a superstar.
Yeah, he's good. He's a great offensive player.
He's a top 10 player in the league. He established himself.
He's not a top 10 player in the league. He's not a top 10. If you're saying that you would start your team, he'd be one of the 10 players that you'd start your team with, then you're lying to yourself.
No, last year he was a top 10 player in the league.
He's probably top 20. He's not top 10. Definitely not top 10. If you're starting your team with I can name 10 players off the bat that I would rather have than Isaiah Thomas. That's just me though. He's good. He's good, no doubt. But he's not Kyrie Irving. Last year, he's a top 10 player?
Last year, he was. He averaged 30 points a game for the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference. He was the best player on the best team in the East.
They obviously were not the best team in the East, but he was the best scorer on the best team on the number 1 seed in the East because the number 1 team in the East doesn't try during the regular season. But I don't know. You don't know how he's going to look. I think Isaiah Thomas, he's obviously an incredible scorer. I respect the hell out of him, but he's 5'9". He's a defensive liability, and he's not going to put up the same numbers with LeBron James on his team. So that's how I see it. I think it's a complete downgrade when you go from Kyrie to Isaiah. So they're not even close to what they were last year, and the Celtics are a lot better than they were last year. So the gap's closing. Will the Cavaliers win the Eastern Conference Finals? I'd say they're probably the favorites, but they're by no means a shoo-in at this point. I know we're in December. I know this is overanalyzing, but still, the way they're playing is cause for concern. And I know this is typical Cavaliers regular season play, but still, I just don't know if LeBron can do it by himself.
Right. No, look, you're making complete valid points. I think. I think we really don't know about this Cavs team. I think it's early to assess it, but I just think based on these last couple of games that LeBron still can lead them to the finals, but it's just going to make the East a lot more interesting. I want to get into last night. I don't know if you got to see the game, but the Sixers, they're winners of 8 of their last 11, 8-6 on the year. Ben Simmons has put up the best numbers that a rookie has put up since Magic Johnson. Last night he had another great game, but that was shadowed. He had 18 points, 9 rebounds, 10 assists, like 5 steals. That's shadowed by Joel Embiid last night. And part of it's bad coaching by Luke Walton at the end that I'll get into in a sec. Embiid, I don't want to talk about this just like analyze. I'm going to talk about it as a fan, how awesome it was to watch this game. 46 points, 15 rebounds, 7 assists, and 7 blocks. No one's put up those numbers since Hakeem Olajuwon. Just an awesome performance to watch. Really got me pumped up watching that game. They beat the Lakers, a Lakers team that did every other part of that game to win. That was a game that just the Sixers, they shot like 6 of 29 from 3. They missed a ton of their free throws. The Lakers made like every single free throw they took, and the Lakers were just outplaying the most of it. But Embiid took over the game. And part of it is Luke Walton's fault, like I mentioned before, because at the end, he was just making Embiid one-on-one against Julius Randle. He didn't play Brook Lopez or Bogut at all in the fourth. And I thought that part of that was a big problem. That was just an awful coaching move. They didn't even double him until like the last minute. But it was incredible to see what these two can do together. Simmons and Embiid were just dominant down the stretch, and they couldn't stop them. They couldn't stop them. I recommend, like, obviously you weren't able to watch last night, but their next game, they played Golden State on Saturday night. Watch that game. Watch how they play. Watch how it unfolds. They're a really exciting team, and they're fun. They're a fun team to watch. For the first time in a while, they're fun.
Yeah, I mean, Joel Embiid is turning into one of the top big men, not only young big men in the league, but one of the top big men in the league with the way he's playing right now. And it's kind of highlighting a really good slew NBA between him, Karl Anthony Towns, Anthony Davis. There's a bunch of other ones that are slipping my mind, but there's a bunch of really good big men in the NBA right now. Really good young Porzingis. So he's among the best, and he might be the best out of all those guys with the way he's playing. And I love that there's a big physical center in the NBA now who's just bigger and stronger than everyone, because I feel like we haven't had a guy who's been as elite with that skill set in a while. So to see Joel Embiid doing what he's doing is awesome for the NBA. And it seems like health isn't as big of an issue with him right now, and that he might be able to stay healthy, and that maybe those first 3 seasons were fluky. I'm willing to start to admit that. There's no doubt that his skill is unmatched, really, right now for someone with his experience at his age. Maybe you can compare Karl Anthony Towns to him or AD, but what he's doing right now is exceptional. And with him and Ben Simmons coming up, because Ben Simmons is looking like a really versatile, well-rounded player who could fit on any team, the Sixers' future is bright. It seems like it's going to be them and the Celtics in the Eastern Conference for the next decade if they keep the core, if each team keeps these cores together. So
right.
It's awesome. It's great for the NBA. It's great for Philadelphia. It's great for the Sixers, and it's kind of illustrating the point that in the NBA you have to tank. You have the point I've made before, because all this stuff that's going on, all these teams that are excelling are doing it through the draft. Even the Celtics acquiring Kyrie Irving is indirectly through the draft. It's through that asset. And you talk about Tatum and Brown, same deal. And obviously with the Sixers getting Embiid and Simmons and Saric, all these guys. I'm not going to say Fultz yet because we haven't seen much of him, but it's all through the draft. That's the way they're doing it. And these teams, you can tell which teams know their shit from how they evaluate this talent and how they acquire this talent and how they develop this talent. So I think it's great news for the NBA. It's good that the Sixers are actually a relevant team. It's looking like they'll make the playoffs for the first time in a billion years. So
yeah,
it's good to see.
It is.
Yeah,
it is good to see that. And the only thing I just want to touch on that you said with Embiid, yeah, like health has been good this year, but they are still being cautious with his load management.
You got to manage that load, baby.
Like oh god, he's been playing like more. You know, like they've been getting him in there more. Last night I think he played like 34, 35 minutes, which to have that stat line in 35 is insane. Monday night against the Clippers, he played 36 minutes. So he's playing more. They're getting him more in there, and it's looking like he's healthier. But you know, you never want to count your chickens too early. You know, it's a lot. But anyway, let's move on. But first,
I think you butchered that.
the
I think you butchered that expression.
Yeah, I think I did too. But hey, apple doesn't fall far from the tree.
Okay.
Takes one to know one. Takes one to know one.
You should subtly mess those expressions up too. Just stay consistent.
I'm just saying, man.
I'm
trying to kill two birds. Trying to kill two birds with one stone.
Trying to kill one bird with two stones. You know what I mean?
Just saying. You're the apple in my eye. Anyway, before we move on, we had the Cortica broadcast last week. Had a lot of listeners. It was great. This is the final football broadcast this weekend. Connor and myself are going down to Delaware for Ithaca. They're playing Salisbury in a bowl game, the Whitelaw Bowl game. It should be a great one. Tune in, wicb.org, 91.7 FM if you're locally in the Ithaca area. But it should be one hell of a game, and it's one last broadcast. It'll be a little emotional one, but to go to a D1 facility to broadcast football will be an awesome time. But let's get into
Delaware was the first state in the union, and they also introduced taxes. Fun fact for you. Sorry, go on.
Thanks. And Joe Flacco went to Delaware too.
And Joe Biden, he was in Delaware.
Yeah, he does. That's a good point. Louis C.K. When I found out about this, I immediately thought of you. I know how much you love this guy. So just take us really through what happened, because I kind of know. I know it involves masturbation in front of people. I don't really know the too much of it, but I want to get your thoughts and your opinion of him and how it affects it as you move forward.
So what I read about this was this has been rumored for a while, apparently, in the comedy community. It all stems back to about, I think it was 2005, 2003, 2005. He was at an Aspen Comedy Festival, and there were two female comedians that he invited. But people don't realize Louis C.K. has been a really big name in comedy before he ever was well known as a stand-up. He was the head writer for the Dana Carvey show. He's the head writer for the Chris Rock show. He's a writer on Conan O'Brien. He obviously directed Pootie Tang, who could forget, and he had Lucky Louie at that point as well. So he was a well-known guy and well-respected for sure. People knew that he was brilliant before he ever really made it mainstream. So he invited these two female comics up to his room, and he proceeded to masturbate in front of both of them, and just started doing it without them really responding. They stayed in the room. He finished, whatever, and they left, and the rumor circulated, and apparently he had done this a couple times. New York Times came out, or the New Yorker came out with an article, one of those two sources. I'll try to figure that out. Pretty much detailing everything that happened. And it has completely tarnished his image right now. He had a new movie coming out called I Love You, Daddy, which was completely shelved. HBO cut all ties with him. Netflix cut all ties with him. They canceled his upcoming special. I think they took off Louis from Netflix. So this is kind of changed his complete reputation. And people are attacking him in the midst of this I don't know what you would call it. This exposure, there's a word for it that starts with an R. It's on the tip of my tongue. I can't think of it. But this reckoning. So my initial reaction was just disappointment. Louis C.K., if you know me personally, if you're a friend of mine, if you're family, you know that Louis C.K. is kind of like my personal hero, or at least was. He's someone who I think is the greatest comic to ever live. I think that he's a brilliant talent. I still think that, and that opinion's not going to change because of the scandal, because the reality is he is. That's just, for me, he is. But the fact that he did this is extremely disappointing. And it really sucks that someone that you've looked up to really since I was like 12 years old, 13 years old, since I saw his first stand-up special on HBO. It's kind of murdering my childhood. It has to happen, though. That's the reality. If someone uses their power like that, it's disgusting, and it's something that evidently has gone on in Hollywood forever, and it's starting to become exposed, rightfully so, and it's a good thing. It's a really good thing. But it still doesn't change the fact that it sucks that this is coming out that I have rooted for a guy who for that said, I I don't think that he's as much of a bad person as he is someone with a problem. I think he's an impulsive guy who has a really bad problem with just with what he did with just sexuality in general, and he couldn't control himself. Um, I don't think it was a conscious effort, from what I read, to be like, I have power over you, I'm going to do this. I think he's just an impulsive guy who had to feed his habit, and he did it at the expense of other people. I'm not excusing what he did at all. There's zero excuse for it. But I don't think that he's necessarily a bad person. I think he just honestly has a really bad problem. And I think that there is an opportunity to learn from this. There is an opportunity to improve as a person from this, from his perspective. This isn't Harvey Weinstein. I don't think it's fair to clump him in with Harvey Weinstein or Kevin Spacey, because he never is accused of raping anyone. He's never accused of putting his hands on anyone. He just did something in front of people that's inexcusable, that is traumatic for the people who had to witness it. But I think he will come back. I don't think this is the end of his career, and I think he'll probably lay low for maybe a year or two. But this isn't the end. I think he's too great of a talent for people to just push him away, especially given the circumstances. And I hope he comes out, and I hope that people can learn from this, and that instead of him being completely shunned from Hollywood because of this, it's a learning experience for people, and he's kind of a cautionary tale more so.
Yeah, it's just one of those things that you never like to hear, especially from guys that are this influential. Like you have Kevin Spacey a couple weeks ago, who everyone just really ultimately loved, and Louis C.K. was under that category as well. I'm not saying it's more sad because it's the guy that people like that much, but I guess I kind of am. It's a really rough situation, and I'm not quite sure if he'll come back from it. But only like time will tell. Something like that.
Yeah, it's all. And I don't know if you saw today, Al Franken is the next person who's been exposed for
No
sexually
way.
assaulting a radio show host in Los Angeles a number of years ago.
Isn't he like a congressman now?
He's a senator. He's a senator in Minnesota. So this is another thing I have a problem with, though. I think that there's a lot of hypocrisy, and there's a lot of people in entertainment who are coming out and being like, this needs to stop now. And a lot of them are men who have been kind of letting it happen for years, and they're acting like they're social justice warriors now. Like you are part of a problem in a way by staying quiet. And the whole entertainment industry is part of the problem because they've enabled these people. Look at Roman Polanski. Pedophilia. Like that's a legitimate thing. He won an Oscar after that. He's lived in France. He has not returned to the United States. Like that guy has still been celebrated for doing this stuff. Mike Tyson went to prison for rape. He has a cartoon out right now on Cartoon Network, and he's been celebrated by so many people in the past decade. Like this is the reality. The only reason that this is coming out now is because it's the trendy thing to do, which, you know what, it's better that than nothing at all. But there is a problem that needs to be called out, and it's a popularity contest where people in Hollywood, if they make money, they're excused from doing whatever they want. And
Yeah.
that's brutal. And in Harvey Weinstein, it was known for years that he was a predator. It's known for years that he was a scumbag and an animal, and it was excused because he had so much influence and power. And right now, there's so many people in Hollywood who are coming out and saying, this is unacceptable. Like, screw off. You are an enabler in a way. A lot of these people who are coming out and acting outraged, like it is a complete shit show all the way around. It needs to happen. It's great, but I think we need to look back and reflect at the people who enabled this type of thing to happen and gave all these people a platform. That doesn't mean that everyone's to blame. I'm not saying that necessarily. I just think that there's a lot of people who are hopping on the bandwagon for the sake of taking advantage of improving their own image, and it's disingenuous. So I don't know. I think it's a good thing overall, but we're just living in really shitty times. That's the awful.
I hate people that try to reap benefits, like come out and like speak against it when they knew it happened all along. Like that's just inexcusable to me.
Yeah. So those are my thoughts on it. I think Louis C.K. will come out eventually, and he will resurface. And I hope for the sake of moving this whole thing forward, that he can speak out and maybe become an advocate against doing this type of stuff and not play the victim. I know people get a bad taste in their mouth and people are like, when people use the "I have a problem" card, but I think he does have a problem. I think it's more of that than him being a bad person. That's just the vibe I get. Maybe I'm biased because I'm a huge fan of his work. Um, but I don't know. I look at it as someone who has a really bad problem and he didn't really have any empathy for other people, which is a problem in itself. So we'll see where this ends up. We'll see who else comes out of the woodworks, what other things circulate, because it seems like every week there's 2 or 3 people being exposed, and this is far from over. But that's going to do it. Any final thoughts, John?
No, just have a good Thanksgiving, man.
Yeah, and let's try to do a show maybe the Friday after Thanksgiving. We'll figure that out when the time comes. But for John Sokolov and Alex Lebas, thanks for tuning into the Jon Lebo Show. We'll try to be back next week. If not, we'll take the week off for Thanksgiving, but we'll keep you posted on Twitter.